Welcome to Marriage IQ, the podcast for the intelligent spouse.
I'm Dr. Heidi Hastings.
And I'm Dr. Scott Hastings.
We are two doctors, two researchers, two spouses, two lovers, and two incredibly different human beings coming together for one purpose: to transform the stinky parts of your marriage into scintillating ones, using intelligence mixed with a little fun. Hello, lovers, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Marriage IQ.
Hey, lady.
We're really glad to have you back with us this week, and we have a pretty interesting topic to talk about.
First, I want to sing something.
Oh, really?
I've seen that smile somewhere before. I've heard that voice before.
I've heard that voice before.
It seems we've talked like this before. Sometime who can remember when?
I forgot the
if
words.
I knew you then. It's strange. I can't remember. That is from a movie that you'll never hear of. But I wanted to sing it today.
That's hilarious. That was kind of a surprise. Why did you choose to sing that song?
Because I've had it on my mind. I think of that song when I see you. So
You do?
there you are. We're letting our audience into on a very intimate point of our relationship.
Oh, memories. What about memories? Like the corners of my mind.
Speaking of memories,
We are going to talk some about memories today, right?
We are.
And can I just say,
Yes.
your voice is very deep, and so is mine, but yours sounds really sexy.
What a little cough will give you, right?
So I have a question for you, Scott.
Yeah.
What is the most valuable asset that you and I and all of our listeners have? This asset can never be accrued. It can never be earned. It can never gain interest. There's no market for it at all. It's very finite. Everyone has equality in this one asset. And most of us are clueless about it. We have this asset and we don't even stop to think about it.
So all of us have it. It's the
Mhm.
most valuable asset we have.
Yeah.
It's finite. We
Mhm.
can't gain it. What is it?
Time. Think about it. Every single one of us has the exact same amount of time. Nobody can earn more than anybody else. We can waste it, but we can't get more of it.
Time.
Time actually impacts our relationships way more than most of us ever even realize.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you can think of that time might impact our relationships?
Well, how we look at time, our time perspectives, what we value might be different from each other.
Yeah. In fact, what if some of the biggest fights in marriage really aren't even about money, sex, or household duties, but more about time itself? What if that is at the core of some of these other conflicts in our relationships?
I've never thought about it that way. That's a genius idea, honey.
Yeah, it's not how much you have, but it is how you see it. The secret power is that time is actually the great equalizer.
Indeed. The richest people, the poorest people, we all have 24 hours in a day. We're going to talk a little bit today about the value that we put on our time. I like reminiscing on the past and things that we've done in the past, our relationship, our dating, kids.
You remember every detail of every kiss, every interaction. It's really amazing.
And you're very focused on relationships right now.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
love to talk to your kids on the phone.
Yep, multiple times throughout the week. I love to talk with you too. You're a priority. You're my
So
biggest priority.
we look at time differently, right? We have different meanings for time. And this was kind of brought to the forefront this last weekend when we watched this movie together,
Mm-hmm.
All My Life.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked the question, the philosophical question, what are we going to do with the time we have in our lives? Supposedly, we have 27,262 days for
On
the average
average.
person.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? We got one life.
And the guy in the movie only lived like 6 months after he got married.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah. But they really made the most of it.
Yeah. And another movie, too, that really touched me, Soul by Disney.
Yeah.
This was a great movie. It talks about this guy who all he wants to do is play piano in this big jazz quartet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's his journey into finding out what really matters is not what he thought. So he asked that same question, what am I going to do? I got one life. Let's live it. That's a very inspirational movie. If you haven't seen Soul by Disney, please do so.
Yeah.
Check it out this weekend.
Can I add another time movie to some of our favorites? Somewhere in Time.
Oh, yes.
Where Christopher Reeve keeps wanting to go back in time.
Yes. That's what makes it so romantic.
It's what makes nostalgia so appealing, is having these desires to relive another time.
Indeed. We're going to take a lot of what we talk about today from this book, The Time Paradox by Philip Zimbardo and John Boyd. This is a great book.
It is.
You came across that in some of your studies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were studying family time management. And this gave such a great perspective on how to better manage time as couples or as families.
Well, it is time to talk about time.
Woohoo!
All right. So what is it? Do we have all the time in the world or no time to do anything? It's really up to us, how we perceive it.
In psychology, researchers have been studying the impact of time on our psychological well-being for decades now. But it's only been in the last 25 years or so that Dr. Philip Zimbardo expanded the view of time beyond just looking at how the past impacts us. And he found that the present impacts us and the future impacts us, and all kind of at the same time. So today we're going to really look at how the way that we view time deeply influences how we experience and show up in our marriages. We're going to talk about the time perspectives that the time paradox presents and how they affect couples, and actually practical ways and tips in how to gain time awareness together.
So what is time perspective? What does that mean? It's an unconscious cognitive process that partitions human experience into time zones, past, present, future. It's what we make of our day-to-day living.
It's how our brains process things.
Yeah.
But we kind of gravitate to one over the other typically.
That's right. And according to Zimbardo, there's 6 time orientations: past positive, past negative, present hedonistic, present fatalistic, future oriented, and transcendental future.
Okay.
And I know that sounds some pretty big fancy words.
So 2 of them are past, 2 of them are present, and 2 of them are future.
Yeah, it's really actually pretty fascinating.
Okay.
When you learn about yourself. So we start with past oriented. Those with a past positive perspective, they look at life in their past, their childhood, with fondness, with happy memories.
That's really you.
They tend to be happier, more satisfied in life. So these past positive people, they're usually filled with nostalgia, with family traditions, with a strong sense of roots, and they value these rituals and traditions. Some of the risks with past positive, though, is they might cling to the good old days
Yeah.
of yesteryear and they want to avoid change.
So that might be the guy who's the star of the football team in high school, and that's all he can talk about is wanting to relive those
Yeah.
glory days.
Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Uncle Rico effect.
That's right.
Napoleon Dynamite. It's a
Yep.
great movie. I love it. The past negative, those are folks who really they live with a lot of trauma, regret, things that has happened negatively. Some of the risks, though, with the past negative, bitterness, they blame, they have difficulty forgiving others.
I can see that. Was there anything
Yeah.
positive about that?
Well, some of the strengths for people who experience this are they can learn to do some reflective learning, look back on what went wrong, and then make some changes. Techniques like cognitive reframing, forgiveness, gratitude are recommended to shift from negative to more positive past orientation.
Okay.
One of the things that I do, and we both do, we have a 5-year journal. Every day. It only gives you 5 lines.
One of our most valuable possessions, I would say.
And it's funny how quickly I move from joy and exhilaration to depression, back to joy, because I can look back on every single day for the last 5 years.
So when you look at a page for whatever day of the year, say June 14th, it's going to have 5 years in a row where you
That's right. I can look back
so you can
to
look and see what you did during
on
that.
this date in 2022. This is what happened. Really great.
Is that helpful for you?
Yes, it is. It
Why?
helps me understand that I'm not going to be always depressed and not always exuberant.
Okay.
I have ups and downs. Those with a strong past positive perspective have a well-developed medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, and precuneus.
Okay,
And
so translate that.
these are parts of the limbic system in the brain that are highly associated with these past positive experiences. In a study by Yang in 2022, they looked at functional MRIs of the brain, and the areas that lit up when people were reminiscing on pleasant experiences, nostalgic memories, these are the areas that lit up. And interestingly, if you put an odor in there, it elicited a stronger nostalgic response. And interestingly as well, the higher past positive experience directly led to higher levels of intimacy with your partner.
Really? So we should have on hand some smells like cologne
From
we
our
used to
childhood.
wear. If I wore the perfume that I wore
Yeah.
on our wedding night, you might
Yes.
remember with fondness and
Yep.
be more intimate with me. Huh. That's really interesting. So can I talk about the present orientations?
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's present hedonistic and present fatalistic. Present hedonistic people are spontaneous, they take risks, they are very pleasure focused. While present fatalists, on the other hand, often feel powerless and they feel like their fate is already sealed, that they have no choice on what happens in their life. So present hedonistic, let's talk a little more in depth about that. They're spontaneous, pleasure seeking. Their strengths are they're very fun. They're very adventurous. They're fantastic at living in the moment and experiencing all the fun. That reminds me of the other movie that we watched this weekend called
Yes Day.
Yes Day. Before they got married and had children, they said yes to everything. Everything in life was fun and adventurous.
Skydiving.
Yeah.
Skydiving is present hedonistic.
Yeah. And then they had children and they had to kind of find themselves again. So the risks of being present hedonistic oriented are you can be really irresponsible. You're more interested in doing what feels good or seems fun than taking responsibility. You can be poor at financial planning or actually any kind of planning because you're not looking forward, you're just living for the now. And actually, infidelity risk is much higher with this kind of orientation.
The present hedonistic can be very reactive. Like, hey, let's go to the state fair tonight, or let's go parachuting. And it's just living in the moment for yourself.
But wait a second, you have a business meeting tonight.
That's right. I like to think as present, there's another state called present mindful that he doesn't talk about, where it's just a neutral observation of the world right now that we're living in.
So I would maybe disagree with that a little bit, because I think hedonistic means that we're embodied.
Mm-hmm.
We're feeling pleasure in our body. And for me, when I'm mindful, I'm getting out of my thoughts and into my body. I'm noticing, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I feel? And I think they're just two ends of the spectrum of the same present hedonistic time
I
perspective.
could probably go with that. It's just when I think of hedonism, I think of spring break parties for college students.
Right. But it's more than that. That's the risk. That's the negative. That's the side of it that's gone too far. But this other part of it
That is
actually
it, though?
brings a lot of joy.
I think it's okay to go on spring break as a college student. That's not going too far. That's living in the moment.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
You really think that?
Well, we went on spring break. Is that too far?
I just don't want you getting all wild and crazy on me when you're in college, okay?
Well, I missed that window.
Did you get wild and crazy
I did
for
not.
spring break?
The only wildness I got was the football games. So
And that's during the fall. That's not during the spring. Maybe basketball?
maybe those got a little wild. But yeah, I think however you want to slice it, look at it, that there is this present hedonism where you are self-interested. You are doing things to bring you pleasure right now. And also this other side, I call it mindfulness. You say it's on the other side of the hedonism spectrum, where we're just being aware,
Mhm.
right?
And really, that does bring joy. And it does bring pleasure, just in a very more relaxed,
Well, and we don't
different,
know it. That's why nobody does it.
not a risk-taking kind of a way. Okay, so let's look at present fatalistic time perspective then. These, like we said, are more helpless people. They are resigned to powerlessness, to just falling in line. They have no choices in their lives. Life just happens to them. So some of the strengths in this time perspective are that they are more accepting of hardship, perhaps,
I can
in
see
some
that.
ways.
I can see that.
They just figure, this is my fate. This is my life. I just have to live with it. Some of the risks for this perspective are becoming hopeless, having passivity in conflict because they feel like they don't have any choice. They have a lack of initiative. They're not really working towards goals or anything. While present focus can enhance enjoyment and reduce stress, it can also lead to impulsivity, addiction, and poor long-term planning. So how about let's talk about future-oriented time perspectives.
So with the future, we're looking at things coming at us that we don't know about. That can cause a lot of stress. Those who are future oriented, they do tend to be linked more with academic success and career achievement, long-term health, because they're looking down the road.
Executives are really heavy in this type of time perspective, and their brains are more developed in this way.
The downside to that is it can lead to workaholism and stress and neglect of personal relationships. I found myself falling into this trap.
Yeah, I think we both have at times.
The future-focused people tend to be goal-oriented and planners. That's a great strength. They're planning for kids. They're saving money for their trip. They have a shared vision. Some of these risks of looking into the future is overscheduling, not being able to live in the moment, in the now. And this transcendental future, which when we say transcendental, that really means what's coming after we die.
Mm.
Have we thought about this? Those who have this transcendental perspective, they want a legacy for people to come after them. They want some meaning for life after death.
They feel like they have a mission in life, maybe.
Yeah. There is some strengths to that. They have more spiritual depth, purpose-driven life. That's great. Some of the risks with this, though, is a potential to avoid everyday issues. Like, who's going to pay the electric bill, right? When I'm wanting this grandiose life to come that I can't see yet.
Or like you said, really ignoring the relationships right now.
Yeah, that can be bad. So the key here that you're going to find over and over is the word balance. Balancing the past, the present, the future. We emphasize the importance of integrating short-term pleasure with long-term goals. So this type of functioning, thinking about the future,
Mm-hmm.
that comes from the front part of the brain
Mm.
involved with planning for the future, right? So each one of these has their pros and their cons.
Yeah, Zimbardo argues that the healthiest and most satisfied individuals are those who have balanced time perspective.
I love it.
They're high in past positive. They're moderate in present hedonistic. They're not over the board where they're ignoring the future. They have high future orientation. So they've got goals. They're looking forward to the future. They're having maybe a shared vision together. And then they're low in past negative. So I'm not constantly living in the past thinking about how I should have made different choices or how what other people did to me are stopping my progression. And low in present fatalistic. So not just looking at life as happening to me either, but being able to know I have choices. I have control of my life. I'm living in the present. I'm remembering so fondly the past, and I have goals, and I'm looking forward to the future. So the key word here is balance.
So Heidi, let me see if I understand this right.
Okay.
According to Zimbardo, the most important thing is past positive. All the things happy to us in the past.
Well, and what's really interesting is that John Gottman's research as a marriage researcher would agree with that. He can tell if a couple will get divorced within, 5 minutes of spending time with them. He asks them what they remember about how they met and when they got married. And if they've interpreted it from just a negative perspective, he can predict within just a few minutes a much, much higher chance of getting divorced. But if we can look back on our relationship with fondness and remember the good parts, there's a much higher chance of saving the marriage.
So that's the most important, the past positive,
Okay.
followed by how much we're doing in the moment.
And a moderate amount of that.
Moderate, not high,
Yeah.
not low, but moderate.
Right.
Hey, let's go out for dinner tonight. Well, hey, let's do it. Let's be spontaneous.
Yeah. Having some spontaneity in there.
And
Then after that,
a moderate amount of future orientation and
Mhm.
planning.
our
So-
shared goals, our shared vision,
It is a balance.
yeah. And then, of course, not sweeping under the rug hard times that we've had, but having less emphasis on them.
Right.
There's quite a bit of research on this balanced time perspective idea that I found really interesting.
Yeah.
Balanced time perspective is associated with having higher emotional intelligence, having increased mindfulness. We have better executive functioning, and we're more satisfied with our romantic relationships. We can look back on the fondness of time behind us, look forward to our goals together, and live in the present.
Live in the present.
We make more healthy leisure choices, more ethical business dealings, and we have overall higher satisfaction with life. So I think we maybe should talk about this balance.
I don't know
more
why
often.
we don't talk about time perspectives, but we chose to today because it's that important, folks.
That important to our marriages. According to Dr. Zimbardo's research, how you see past, present, and future can shape everything in your marriage. from the daily decisions to the lifelong dreams. And most couples, like we've said, don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, it's under the radar. So we're unpacking today how your time lens may be the hidden script behind your love story and your arguments. A lot of times we don't have the same time perspectives.
Right. So here are some of the ways that these mismatches show up. Having a future-oriented spouse who loves planning, scheduling everything, and wants security, and a present hedonistic spouse who craves spontaneity, fun, and lives in the moment. One wants a detailed vacation itinerary, and the other one wants to just kind of go with the flow and see where the day takes us.
For example, Emily planned a cozy night in, a dinner, a movie, just the two of them. But then Jason walked in with a last-minute ticket to a concert.
He was probably super excited.
He was excited. She was furious. He couldn't understand why she was upset. I thought it'd be fun, he said. But we had a plan, she replied. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
This wasn't a fight about plans. It was a clash of time perspective.
Yeah. Emily sounds like he's future focused, while Jason lives in the present. He wants to just enjoy every moment.
Who's right? Who's wrong? They're both right. They're both wrong.
They may have arguments about budgeting versus impulsive spending. I'm going to keep pushing us, to save more money, to achieve
You want a budget,
goals,
right? You're the goal setter. I'm the spontaneous one, right? The spender.
And I'm probably going to be really ticked at you that you're spending money right now instead of saving for our future.
Yeah. So that can be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of saying, oh, I understand, or I have empathy for this hard thing you've been through, it could be looking like, let's get over it
let's
already.
Move.
Let's process it, get to the present, and then let's look to the future.
So these mismatches can really cause misunderstanding, some unmet needs, and a lot of arguing. And the real conflict here isn't really about the issue itself. It's about our different time perspectives and how we orient ourselves.
So one of the ways to resolve that is to validate that other spouse, saying, I see how what happened still hurts you, rather than saying, get on with it, get over it. It's already passed. Acknowledging that something hurt, and then create some healing rituals.
I like that.
Write letters to people that were associated with that hurt, or go revisit significant places and rewrite those. I, in my first marriage, was proposed to on Valentine's Day. And when on Valentine's Day, 10 years later, I heard Scott upstairs talking to my dad instead of coming down to get me for our Valentine's date. I was saying, no. Please,
I didn't know this.
Please don't propose to me today. Please don't propose to me today. But actually, it was such a huge blessing because I could rewrite that part of hurt in my life. And we love Valentine's Day now.
Yeah.
That's good. I think another area that we need to talk about that this shows up is in parenting differences.
Indeed.
You may have one who's a future-oriented parent that they're just worried about their kids getting good grades, getting into college, taking college prep courses. They're very focused on discipline and on teaching their kids life skills. While if there's a present-focused parent, they might be more focused on the child's current happiness, playing together, doing fun things, having experiences together. So this might show up in disagreements about screen time for the kids, about rewarding the kids for things that maybe one parent thinks that they should just do without rewards. May show up in educational planning and some disagreements with that. So
we had a fair share of our disagreements over the years.
Yeah. So one parent may seem too strict and the other too permissive.
Well, how can we resolve this?
Yeah.
Let's align our values first. Ask, what kind of adult do we want to raise? And reverse engineer your parenting.
And I think it really isn't a bad thing to have two different time perspectives when it comes to parenting.
Mhm.
I think our kids really multiple time
Yes, yeah.
perspectives.
Mhm. And take turns leading. Let each parent occasionally set the tone.
Sounds to me like intentionality.
How does this look in sex and intimacy?
Oh, that's
Though
a good question.
we have a present hedonistic spouse who seeks physical pleasure and excitement in the moment, and a future oriented spouse. They might be distracted by stress or goals or to do lists.
Do you think that aligns more with gender?
It probably does.
Okay, cool.
I hate to stereotype. We don't want to stereotype on this show. But if you're over 50%, it becomes a trend. It does show up where one is initiating more often. They're looking for that spontaneity. The other struggles to be present and relaxed.
Because they're future focused. They're thinking about what they still have to do, what's lying ahead.
And we've talked about this several times regarding sex.
Mhm.
And I think we haven't put the time perspective
We
on it,
haven't.
though.
That's a
So I
good
think,
lens to look at it through. So, how can we resolve some of the issues over sex and intimacy then? We're going to go back to what we've suggested in several episodes, and that's to schedule intimacy, to schedule sex, such as let's block out Friday night for us. No screens, no pressure. But do so loosely. So, how might this show up when it comes time to make financial decisions?
great question.
Well, somebody who's future oriented, they're wanting to save, to invest, to budget carefully, maybe have freezer loaded with food or the pantry loaded, preparing for the future. While the present hedonistic spouse would just spend money more freely and they value current present experiences over having a savings account. They just want to live and be happy right here in the moment. This might show up in compulsive spending, in debt.
Some conflict over that.
Yeah. One person may feel controlled by the other one, while the other person might just feel more anxious about the future. I can see some parts of us in this, and sometimes it's one of us, and sometimes it's the other of us.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little close to home,
Yeah.
more than I want.
Yeah.
What are some resolution tips here? Create a guilt-free spending account. Set aside fun money for each person to use however they like. I have Scott's crazy ideas. And now,
I have Heidi's crazy ideas.
that is our fun money. Use visual goals. Talk in shared terms, not you always waste money versus you never let me have fun, but how can we both feel secure and free here?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What about meaning and legacy? We talked about that transcendental future.
That's a
Right.
little
And
bit harder to wrap your head around sometimes.
Yeah, after we die, how do we want to be known? What do we believe in the life after? The transcendental future spouse, they are going to be oriented toward legacy, faith, life after death.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that present or past focused spouse, they're going to be less concerned with that long-term existential meaning. How that shows up is one wants to give and serve and sacrifice now for some spiritual or eternal goals, and
Yep.
the other might feel neglected or disconnected. Like, hey, let's have fun.
One way to work with that is to have shared meaning, not pressure. Talk about your hopes for legacy or faith in a way that invites rather than corrects. Build some overlap. Even if you don't share beliefs, you can share values like serving others or love or resilience, and respect those different lenses. One sees purpose through eternity and the other sees purpose through relationships or through memories. And both of those honestly matter. When we're looking at handling life transitions and the tension that comes along with that, if one partner's anxiously future focused and the other is passive or fatalistic or nostalgic, we can name our fears and our hopes out loud, talking about them using that feeling.
The I feel statements.
The I feel statements, the feeling chart, talking about our feelings really helps reduce anxiety and invites empathy for each other and helps us understand each other better. Create anchor rituals during transitions where we have weekly check-ins, we have family meetings, couples councils, like we talked about, or just quiet reflection at bedtime where we're both helping each other feel grounded and not anxious. Having that balance action with presence allows our partners to prepare and allows one partner to prepare and the other to simply be, to not take control or tell our partner how they should be experiencing it.
This is a real conflict here.
Yeah. We've probably experienced some of that sometimes too.
So, how do we handle these life transitions?
Well, I think if we can prepare well, but don't get overwhelmed with anxiety about what might lie in the future, just do our best.
The what if?
The balance, right. And that present fatalistic or past focused partner, they might withdraw, feel powerless or nostalgic. One is anxious about trying to fix the situation or plan for things that are coming up in the future. The other might appear passive, pessimistic, or even resistant to
Because
change.
of that past negative experience, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that really triggers them.
So, what do we do with all this? What are some solutions for couples with these mismatched time perspectives? We can create some time zones in your week.
Mm,
You designate certain days for structured plans and others for spontaneous activities.
that's good. That helps us get that balance by planning
Yeah.
for both.
It demands intentional planning.
Right. Another thing that we can do is use yes and language. Instead of saying we can't do that, try yes. And let's also schedule a dinner this weekend that we can go both plan together. You know what that reminds me of?
Yes,
Do you remember for Christmas of 2019, I gave you for Christmas the year of yes. Do you remember that?
I do.
Because I'm kind of the one who's more realistic and you love to travel and dream and do fun things. And so I bought this pillow even to put on our bed that said yes. I was going to try to just be more open to yes things. Guess what happened, folks? 3 months later, the country shut down, the world shut down for COVID, and
There we are.
we didn't have too many yes things. Maybe we'll have to go back and do that again sometime.
Yeah, that sounds great.
If you'll notice, Scott, these tips that we've shared are rooted in empathy.
Mhm.
We're not trying to correct each other, but trying to collaborate, understanding that we're different in the way that we perceive time. Right?
That's right. In fact, as we age, we're going to have some differences even in our own selves because there's a lot less future as we get older. Say we have 8 decades to look at. That's the average anyway. So those perspectives change over time. We'll be doing more remembering the past because there's more past than there is future.
That's
That
right.
doesn't mean we ignore the future. Retirement does not mean we sit and watch TV all day. Sorry.
At least not for us.
In some recent peer-reviewed studies, they talked to people who are getting toward the end of their life. And there are some common regrets. Not spending enough time with loved ones, too much focus on work or others' expectations, and failure to pursue meaningful joys. And that is why you're here, why you're listening today. We want to help you create a more meaningful, more sustaining life together. Relationships emerge as paramount, the highest part of the most meaning at the end of our life.
Relationships.
People nearing death, they regret not investing more emotional capital into their loved ones, their spouses, their family. They took pride in the risks they took. Isn't that interesting? We want to avoid risk. We've talked about this. Risk is important in relationships. And for people looking back, almost ready to die, they wish they would have taken more.
Interesting.
Balance and happiness. So, how do we build time intelligence as a couple? There's a time perspective inventory at thetimeparadox.com. Heidi and I both took it,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to get together and talk about it. Discuss each partner's dominant and weaker orientations. Cultivate that balance, the balanced time perspective. Honor each other's orientation. Set time for fun and planning. Use time talk in conflict resolution. You might ask, are we stuck in the past? Are we ignoring the present? Are we too anxious about the future?
Yeah, looking for that balance.
Yeah. And practice time empathy. Try to understand why your spouse thinks and acts the way they do based on this time orientation.
And I think we can also reframe those negative past experiences, maybe spending some time looking at old pictures or something to help us remember the positive parts of our past. It's
That-
old movies from your past, eat food from your past, different things that just help you dive into that nostalgia area. Focus on what you've learned and the strength that you've gained or the relationships that you've built through those really challenging times.
And learning to live more in the present, shifting from a future focus more to more present. Savor your experiences. Pause during pleasurable moments to fully absorb it, appreciate the experience using all of your senses.
Witness what's going on around you. Yeah, I like that. Then strengthening our future orientation. Set goals. Regularly visualize ourselves accomplishing those goals.
All right, everyone, to summarize, we are hitting on all four of our cornerstones today. Identity. Find out. Check it out. Go online. Take the test. See where you stand. Your time's perspective. Sit down with yourself, with your spouse. Be intentional about planning.
And about understanding our partner.
That's insight.
Mm-hmm.
And intimacy grows from that as a result of that. We want to end with this episode today. I want to quote from the movie Soul, where Joe is asked how he's going to spend his life when he gets a second chance at life. He says, I don't know, but I'm going to live every minute of it. He then walks out to his door, smells the air, and smiles.
Well, everybody, that wraps it up for this episode of Marriage IQ.
And remember, the intelligent spouse knows that to change from a stinky to a scintillating marriage first requires a change in themselves.
We hope today has sparked some great insights for you all, but stay connected with us by following us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for more great content on this topic. You can also go to marriageiq.com and sign up for our weekly tips email or follow extra content that we have on there.
Invite your family and friends to join the Marriage IQ community. Keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time on another exciting episode of
Marriage
Marriage IQ.
IQ.